Oh, what's up, nerds? Let me cover that up real quick. The void's back. Void. Don't touch the void. Whoa. Fuck. Well, has it been a week? Have y'all been? It's been a week. I'll say that. It's been a week for all of us. Kage's not here. Vix is busy. I'm just kind of out of it, so I have no idea what we're doing today. That's why it is titled the way it is. It is aimless stream because I've got no point. I have no idea what to talk about. I do have a couple topics, some things I will say, but other than that, I don't know what tonight's going to be about. We're just going to kind of wing it and figure out what to talk about. But yeah, I've been thinking a lot about what I'm going to do with more YouTube content. I am still working on the Schedule 1 video. I have about 15 minutes of it done, and I probably still have another 8 minutes of video left that I have to finish. So that's going to take probably another 10 hours, but maybe this weekend I'll bust that out. I'm really excited about that. Thinking about how to pick off new and different TikTok content. I'm really liking the engagement that I'm getting. Oh boy, but still have a long way to go. I mean, we haven't even hit 1,500 followers yet. So really want to figure out how I can alter that, change that. I don't know if I need to just change the content I'm doing because it kind of become its own little thing, or if I should be taking more content from here and grafting that onto that and taking more snippets of the show. I don't know if that would even work. Maybe. Let's see what else. So today I was going to reset the community stream for next month, but we're not going to do that because next month is our subathon for our 3-year mark, which is, that's insane. I cannot believe I've been doing this for 3 years. And it's like, it's so weird because it's like, it doesn't feel much different. Like we've had it's so funny that first year, you know, we had such interesting growth. And we really have tapered off. And I think that's just a major sign of where Twitch is going and just how much worse it is for discoverability. So that's where figuring out what we need to do after this video drops for Schedule 1. I really need to try and take a different approach with YouTube because we're not going to grow as we are. And it's very difficult to justify putting in more effort and more time into something that, as much as we enjoy it, is not giving us enough in return. So as it stands, we can't really put any more into the stream than we already have. As much as we have a lot of plans for it and a lot of things that we're doing in the background, we really just can't prioritize a lot of it. You know, the publications can't prioritize those. We can't really prioritize, like even OSR is just, it's such a downer, but I can't really prioritize it, OSR without, you know, without really knowing that we're going to have some kind of substantial reaction to it. So all of those things kind of have to stay on the back burner. The Oracle has to stay on the back burner. I really need to figure out what I want to do for YouTube in order to get more generation over here, more, you know, interest and influence. I need to figure out how to, once I figure out what we're going to do with the TikTok account and really start to grow that, that could then start to be another source. But for right now, it's kind of its own ecosystem. And yeah, it sucks. It really sucks having put this much effort in to not see as much growth as we would have hoped. But it just means that we have to change tactics. That's really all it means. We know we have the content. We know we have the personality. We have worked so hard over the last 3 years to make so many things fine-tuned and different. I think we're getting to the stage where it's no longer about the production. It is really just about the exposure. I think we are in a great spot for all of our content, all of the types of episodes that we do, all of the things that we have are really well set in place. we're just not out there. We're just not being seen by enough people. So that's the major next step, is getting us out there, getting us noticed, getting us seen, and figuring out where we can expand into and how we can get more notoriety so more people show up to the stream. And the more people that show up to the stream, the more we can put into it. The more we put into it, the more content we can get, and then it becomes the cycle. But for right now, because I just can't pay anybody, I just have to figure out a way of producing content that I can do. I mean, it's already taken me a month to get this one Schedule 1 video out, and that's mainly just because I don't know what I'm doing. So it's just a very slow process of figuring out what every step is going to be, and then the hours it takes to put in those steps. So yeah, I would love to know what works, but I think that's every content creator. Every content creator wants to know what's going to work. And the unfortunate part is, unless you've been doing it for 10 years and are already successful, there is no knowing what's going to work. It's throwing something at the wall and hoping it sticks, right? Like, I am not a good editor, so I am really, really going to be putting a lot of my money on the fact that my Schedule 1 video is entertaining. Because if it's not visually striking, then I really have to hope that that intro, the pitch, is the right kind of hook for people to stick in with it. And I hope some of the jank, so it's a little bit janky, and I hope some of that jank has a little bit of character to it. I kind of leaned into the fact that I'm a bad editor and accepted that there's just going to be some things that I'm not good with, but as long as I put the effort in, I think that will be valuable. I kind of changed my perspective. Originally, I thought that 100 views would be okay. If it got less than 100, I'd probably feel bad, but if at least got 100, I'd feel okay. Honestly, I think this video could easily do 1,000 views. I don't think that's so far out there for so new of a content creator to think that this video might actually hit that far. It is not virality like worthy, but I do think that between 1 and 10,000 views is reasonable. And if it can get there, if I can get between 1,000 and 10,000 views in the first 2 or 3 months, I would feel like it's a good sign that I have the potential to continue and have the potential to actually produce good YouTube content, good long form content, and it would push me to try harder and continue that. So I want to finish it. I want to get it out there. It's just a lot. I definitely don't necessarily I enjoy the idea of crafting I enjoy the process of crafting the idea. I enjoy the process of telling the story. I don't enjoy the process of having to put it all together and putting all the pieces and the scenes together. I'd much rather be able to just narrate, but I'm bad at scripts, so I have to it's funny, every time I do it, I have to sit down and I have to think about the video as if I'm watching it complete, and then I have to piece it together okay, so after all of this, because this is the part in the story that I am, this is what would happen. So I'm doing a lot of things where I'll do a narrate, or I'll do a narration, and tell part of the story, and then we'll have to go by and figure out all the clips that will go into that narration, and then in between the narrations, I have to figure out what part of the stream that I did and the gameplay that I have will fit into the story to push it along. And it's such an interesting process, because I feel that if I were capable of doing things like scripting or story writing, I would understand more probably about how easier it would be for people who do that. It just, I can't seem to keep myself organized when I do that, which is ironic. You think it would be the other way around, but for some reason, trying to put it all down would not be as easy of a process as I'm doing it now. And I can't explain why. So don't ask. But, what we deal with. So yeah, there's all that. And yeah, for TikTok, I seem to have gotten some good feedback when I talked about my D&D Discord. So I want to maybe either do that again, because I did a very long, I think like it was like 5 streams of um 5e in Discord, which was like the only time I DM'd 5e. And I really think there's some value there. I think that is one of the areas that I need to work on, is getting some interest in how I built that Discord and then making that a digital asset that I could pump out for the website. Because again, I need to work on the website. I haven't touched it. It sucks. It's terrible. I have no idea what to do with it. Like, I know what I need to do. I just don't know how to get it done. I just feel like I'm so not creative when it comes to that. And that ties into the dice profiler, which I also haven't touched. I need to kind of just redesign all of that. I need to get my cards, more in order. Just a lot. And I mean, it would be fine if somehow I was making enough money to survive doing all of this already. It would be fine. It really wouldn't be that bad. I do see that it is a lot of work to be a content creator, but if it were successful and I were doing all of these things, it really wouldn't be that bad. It's just a lot on top of already a full-time career, and just all my other priorities, right? I mean, I have to, feed myself. I have to, go to the gym. I have to, maintain relationships. It's just like, I really wish this could sustain itself, but that's why I'm not banking on it. It's a lot of work on top of everything else, and it's just trying to make that transition. Yeah, all the people that were able to make it, I wish I had that secret sauce, but I'm happy that we made it past, or that we're about to make it past the 3-year mark. That is, some great news. I think that puts us beyond like 60-70% of all streamers. I know it was 50% are out by the 2nd-year mark. So not too upset that we're making it to the 3rd. But yeah, I would also like to make more content off Pipeline. Like, having Kage ask me questions the last couple weeks has just reminded me why I started doing this in the first place. And it would be nice to have more people interested in asking questions specifically about High Point, but at the same time, I like discussing it, but it's also one of those things I have no interest in making that standard. Like, I don't want to, I want to encourage people to come up with their own ideas and to think about how they would get things done and work around the systems. I don't necessarily want to become, I don't know. I don't know how much people have taken like Matt Mercer as like, this is how I should. There are the memes that people take on his mannerisms a little bit, but it's like, I don't want to be an influencer where I want people to DM like me. I want, in terms of, I don't want people to DM High Point. I don't want people to DM the specifics that I do, but I do want to promote the idea of how to be comfortable DMing your own story. It's more about the story than the homebrew for me. And I would really like people to be more interested in that. Don't worry about it. So, like I said, I got nothing that I'm really talking about today. We might get into some games, if that's the vibe. I'm totally down to log into some games, but yeah, I just wanted to kind of give some updates because since Kage's not here, I haven't really chit-chatted about much of that. So yeah, biggest plans, work on YouTube, get more interest there so we can get more traction here at the stream. I really need to tie in the TikTok account because as much as I've really been enjoying that content, it's not really doing anything to bridge that gap. And the dice profiler needs to be restored. It was really fun. I really want to go back to that project. I need to redesign it. The stream wasn't that great. I need to figure out a better way to do content for the dice. I need to really revamp the website. The website sucks so bad. Like, I'm not dissuaded at all. I'm happy we have a website. It looks terrible. But what am I supposed to do about that, right? I have no experience and I have no real like conceptualization. Like I know a good website when I see it, but I can't currently conceptualize what mine should look like and how it should stand out. And either until I figure that out or until I can find someone who specializes in that, I'm not really going to have much to offer. So I have to work on that. But I am excited to do another round or another series of videos about how I ran my 5e Discord. I think that's going to be a really successful series, especially on TikTok. I really want to push more shorts to YouTube, so I'm going to do some shorts for TikTok and for YouTube about my 5e Discord, because I did that like 5-part stream like a year and a half ago, which is great. Glad I did it. I want to break down individual pieces without a bunch of the lore and a bunch of the backstory. I really think that there are some key aspects to how I designed that Discord that I think are worth sharing. And I think a lot of people would see value in it. I think a lot of people can take what I did and just even at the concepts, let alone the layout. Because being able to play individually as well as in a party, being able to advance the story with the group, but also let individual players play when there's downtime or when no one else is online. Incorporating those things, I think, can always enhance people's experience, and especially the things that I added that they can do without me. Being able to have a Discord that essentially runs everything that the session needs without you directly being involved, I think is what everyone's looking for. I mean, it's why D&D Beyond, that's why a lot of the TTR, like the VTTs exist, why you have like Roll20, and why everything is so condensed. DMs and players are looking for ways to be able to interact with the game where the interaction is high, but the ongoing cost is low, right? They don't want to have to remember things. They don't want to have complications with things. They want to be able to create, do, and move on. And I really think that there is a way to do that in Discord. I'm not saying that I found the perfect way to do it. I do think that I have a very solid way of doing it, and I think a lot of people can take that idea and move on from it. So I'm hopeful that those videos will do very well. Oh, Niagara Falls, nice. Well, I hope that is an enjoyable trip. Let's see. Do I have anything D&D related? That was pretty much it. That was all my my regular updates. I don't know what else. I really don't know what else to talk about. Could just play games. What did I text? Okay. Hecate, what up? Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Second, what's up? Oh, what you doing, Hecate? I don't know how long you've been here, but you may have missed all of the updates. I've just been kind of chit-chatting for like the last 20 minutes, just ranting about plans, things I want to do, things I need to do, because we don't have enough growth on Twitch, so we need to advance, we need to expand, all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have a whole lot of planned tonight. Kage had some things last minute, and Vix is busy, so, and it's just been a hell of a week for me. It's been a long week with real life work. Kind of sucks. I will say, I guess, in some good news, something to celebrate. I did officially get accepted into the analyst training program that my employment is offering. It's a 7-month program where I'll be taken from my current position. Still get paid the same. It's basically like a lateral transition, but I get moved into a training course from a completely different section. And we go through a 7-month training course with them and do it's 4 days a week. And we have 1 day for just us to do the workloads, and the new training modules. We even get some through a local state college. We get some actual creditable hours with some state classes too. So that starts in June. I just officially got the acceptance letter this week, and I'm getting everything set up. That starts in June, so that's going to be a big change to things. But it will open up my career possibilities next year. Like as soon as next year hits, my promotional opportunities open greatly. So fingers crossed that all works out for me. But yeah, that's I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it. I'm excited. It's obviously a great opportunity, and I'm happy that my management chose me because it's like the lottery system. So management has to offer, or what do they call? They have to sponsor one of us. So I got sponsored by my direct manager, which was really great because I know there was a lot of people on my team who probably wanted it. So it's a great opportunity. It's just it changes my schedule quite a bit in a way that I'm not entirely comfortable with. So I'm not sure. It should not affect stream at all. I'm just not sure how it's going to affect just me and my day-to-day life. But it's only for 7 months, and I don't do any of my job. It is truly, I am going to step away from my current job, and I won't have any interaction with it. So that will be a nice break. It will be a nice mental break to step away and not have to do any of that. But it won't be necessarily a vacation. So we'll see how that works out. But other than that, let's see. What do we all want to do? Y'all got any questions? I have been really on this kick with Kage about answering questions about High Point, especially deep lore, mechanics, or anything else like that. If y'all want to dive into that, I am down. If I don't see anything in chat in a few minutes, we might just pop into some games, and yeah, I might just do that because, like I said, it's been a long week. I didn't have anything planned. Kage and I were kind of on the fence on whether he had some questions for me for High Point, or we were just going to game. But yeah, I just. My brain's not working. My brain is not working. So, if y'all have questions, let me know. I'll give it like a couple minutes. Oh yeah, I'll give it till like the top of the 40 minutes or whatever. And then if I get nothing, we'll move to games. I love D&D questions. I love talking about High Point, the things that I've discovered. It's just how do I get other people interested? But again, it's interesting because I know Kage cares because he plays in the game, right? He plays in the world, so of course he cares a lot about it. Most people, again, 19 months. What up? God, it's hard sometimes to remember that we've been affiliate that long. Thank you though. Thank you very much. And yeah, it's like I've learned that when it comes down to it, there's only so many things people can be interested in when it comes to High Point. Like you can be interested in the lore, whether or not you play in the game, but you can be interested in the lore, and you're more likely interested in the lore if you're a storyteller, if you like a good story, or if you play in the game in the realm or want to. But otherwise, when it comes to the other interests, the only other thing that people could really be interested in is like my homebrew, right? Or the way that I DM and make calls. Like, I guess those are like the 3 pillars that I would say are the interesting parts. And while I would love the most to talk about my lore, like I love my lore, but I also love talking about mechanics, but those kind of have a big overlap in their Venn diagram because the lore and mechanics, in my opinion, are um, very much entwined in terms of telling the story and making things consistent. So yeah, I would love more to do about that, but if people aren't interested in joining it and playing in High Point, it's hard to get and drum up interest in the lore. Mechanics wise, some people who would be interested in that either want to play in the game or are building their own mechanics. But again, that's more of like the people who are interested in homebrewing. So then the only other side of it is how I DM. But most people just want to see that in situ. There's no real way to talk about how I DM unless you say, hey, here's a situation, what would be your call? But that's not really what people want, right? They want to watch the gaming session as it is. So that's where I'm kind of like stuck on the two things that I love talking about the most are probably the things that the vast majority of people care about the least. Which is why I appreciate Kage always asking questions because he just loves digging into it. And I'm here for it. Like explaining how it all makes sense and how it all works and why it does and why I do things the way I do is important for me to make sure that I have it all right. And it's nice to like, reaffirm things, but it's also just, it's fun to talk about it and reminisce about things that I've been creating and putting together and making this story and this world feel as real as it does. It's my hobby. I mean, realistically, that is probably my actual hobby is the world building. So I've been learning recently. I need a physical hobby. But maybe I just need to go to the gym. All right, we got 3 more minutes. I'll see if there's any questions that come out for D&D or High Point itself. If not, I don't know. I'll dick around on some games. I don't even know what I'll play. I do have to work with Kage though, when we have some free time on developing a list for all of the games that we would be interested in doing for gaming with the community, like actual community gaming again, because I think that was a lot of fun and want to do more of it, want to get more people involved. So I want to expand the list of games. So first, Kage and I are going to figure out all the games that we both currently own that have the best impact, which ones we'd both be interested in investing in, and then any others from the community's suggestion that we'll reach out during on Discord for. Yeah, we'll reach out on Discord for that. All right. Well, I don't think I'm gonna be getting any questions. Oh, there we go. You should create a fun race like a leprechaun. Explain. I don't understand. Like a fun. Oh, never mind. This is how long of a week it's been. I read race as like a rally race, not like a creature. That's the kind of week I've had. All right. You want me to create a creature on stream right now? Like that's. I feel like there would be nothing. You want me to do that kind of work when I barely have enough in me to go live? See, I feel like it would be better if you had specific questions on like how to build that than have me actually build it from scratch. Because if you have me build it from scratch, the first thing I want to do, especially if it's something like that, oh god, a playable race. Oh, you really want to hurt me today. See, that's the downside though. I could ask individual questions, but if I really wanted to get into it, the first thing I'd have to do is I'd have to do the research. And that's like an hour right there of just reading up and looking into the little tidbits and lore and things that would be the most important for me to look at. And then doing all the research, because I'd have to figure out like what is the most common lore, what's the lore that I want to keep and ditch. Then you have to do the research on what does that lore translate into D&D logic, and then you have to scale it based on level. I'm tired just thinking about it. I'm tired. What traits do I think it would have? Well, obviously it would have a lucky trait. So I would definitely give it a similar lucky trait as, what is it? The tiefling or the halfling, the halfling luck, where you can't roll or you get to reroll ones. Hell, you know what? To make it different, and instead of it being just an identical, like if you really wanted to go super basic, you wanted to talk about like super basic, you could give it two things. Okay, so here's like two things that I would give it. Okay, yeah, no, I think I can make this work. So one trait is that they cannot roll one. They cannot roll ones. So essentially the leprechaun cannot fail, like crit fail. That would just be it. They reroll all ones. This includes for damage, this includes for saving throws. It's just they can't roll a one on a dice. That would be in and of itself pretty damn powerful. So the alternative for the gold, especially like the pot of gold or whatever, is if you also wanted to tie it into luck. The alternative or additional trait would be, think about however much you think is in a pot of gold, right? Whether a leprechaun pot is 100 gold, 500 gold, 1,000 gold. Set that as the number, and the leprechaun gets to add a +1 to any roll for every X amount of that gold. So let's say that you say a pot of gold is a 500 coins. So they get to add a +1 to any roll for every 500 coins that's currently on their person. And then maybe this is like limited to how many times you would do it per day. So like maybe once, okay, and that would be it. Like once per day, you can apply a bonus to any roll equal to 1 for every 500 gold you have. So it's like a once time a day, or you can even do it to where they have that much number. So however much gold they have on them, they can, do that and adjust their luck. I think those would be valid, easy traits to give them without going too crazy. I also think that, I mean, you can give them something really, really, no, because it would just be we're talking about like a playable race, so it can't have too much. I think those would be fine. I think either of those would be fine. Giving them the inability to roll ones, or give them the ability to add to their rolls based on how much gold they have. I think those would be two very interesting mechanics to play. And I think both of those would work. There, see, I did it. Congratulations. You got something. Not sure how useful it was. I mean, you can give them something ridiculous, like, they can actually use rainbows as like a mode of travel or something. They start to become bullies. That would be interesting. Yeah, I'd have to look up some more lore to come up with anything else, but that was interesting. Yeah, I see, I could do that. That kind of stuff I can do. Easy, quick questions. I can't build anything from scratch, but I can answer questions. Okay, so here's would be like an interesting trait if you wanted to go more trickster. Once per long rest, they can summon a pot of gold that will also create a rainbow into the sky that can be seen for a mile radius. and essentially has some sort of an attraction field, not necessarily compulsion, but essentially it's it attracts humanoids, bandits, greedy people. You can kind of just give it an idea. So like once per day they could basically say, poof, here's a pot of gold, it'll last for an hour, and then you get to roll on a table, and that table tells you, like a 1d6 table, of who actually shows up. So like on a 1, nobody shows up, and then maybe like on a 3, bandits show up, and then like on a 6, you actually get something crazy, and then you can have something for each level. So that could be kind of interesting. So kind of like a random encounter generator or trap kind of thing. Maybe you could use it as a distraction, but I feel like there could be something there for the trickster illusionist aspect of it. Oh god, yeah. If you want to go like old, like you're talking about like wait, from which old movies are we talking about? Like the Leprechaun in the Hood movies, like that kind of leprechaun, like the horror movie Leprechaun, because that leprechaun was crazy. Trickery does sound evil. I really think that you could do a lot, like, because then you could have like a whole one where it's like it's based off of, it can pick locks, or it has like advantage when picking locks, or oh yeah, the horror one, okay, or like, so it could have advantage on picking locks, or maybe once per day it can cast the knock spell. Wait, does 5th edition even have the knock spell? Oh, I wish Kage was here. I can't even remember. Akate, do you know off the top of your head, did 5th edition keep that the knock spell, or is that gone? They've got to have it. Yes, okay. I was gonna say they can't get rid of it. Like one of the more classic, iconic ones, but that would be kind of nice. Like being able to cast that like once per day, to get through things or to lock things up. You can give them like you can give them a magical pot of gold, where when they start their character, it starts with however much starting gold they would get when starting the character, and they can summon it at will, and they can put gold into it up to a cap, so 500 gold or however much you think should go in it, and they can desummon it, meaning they kind of have a personal vault of sorts. So it's not a bag of holding because it only holds gold, but it is a personal vault, as in when it's unsummoned, no one can steal from them. So there could be something to that where they can have like a personal magical vault for some spare cash. Ooh, gold sense, interesting. I could see that. Either invisibility or teleport. Something, like could do that. Especially if you wanted to give it like you can turn invisible as long as no one's looking at you. Or you can teleport away, like something like that. Or, it would be like something like give them Misty Step as long as you're not being observed. Those are all good ones. I like those. I don't know much else about the lore off the top of my head that I can really think of what else would like make sense for a leprechaun. All right, cool. Well, I want more. I want more. We'll give it 10 more minutes if I can get some more questions. If not, we still got games to back up to. Oh. They're just up today. It is just my chin. Ugh. Or I've just worked my hips too much this week. Ooh, yeah, may just be my hips. Maybe I just killed it at the gym, and the squats are just getting to me today. That's probably it. Got to get them squats in, even if it hurts. crossballs. So good for working on muscles. Much better than a foam. Also nicer than just like hard plastic balls too. Like having a little bit of give, really nice. But questions, D&D related questions. What do you got? If you're out there on YouTube, I can also see YouTube chat. So if you're out there in YouTube land, ask the questions as well. We aren't on TikTok, so if you're on TikTok trying to ask questions, I don't even know how you're watching this. But, I mean, good for you. But if you have questions, come over here to Twitch. And I'll answer. Got anything else, Hecate? Soul, I know you're busy in a game. Can't really do much since Soul's busy. Well, while y'all think of a question, I'm gonna take a look at what game I might play. Let's switch over. You don't like the death system. So which part about the death system? Is it the death saving throws, or is it the concept of how the character dies and what happens? Elaborate. Because I kind of agree. I'm not a huge fan of death saving throws. I prefer a dying state system where it's more about how much damage you've incurred and how much time you can be in that state before you can't be revived, and then how much time you can be dead before you can be brought back. I much prefer that mentality of a time in a state over arbitrary rolls regardless of how long, because I mean we're talking about if you fail 3 rolls within 9 seconds, you're dead. Or not 9 seconds, within what? 18 seconds. Because that's it. When you go down, you have 3 death saves. You have 18 seconds. If your character goes down and is down for more than 18 seconds, apparently that's just death. Now, if you stopped breathing and all of that, maybe, because oxygen deprivation sucks and all of that. But it's like, it's just, I mean, if you truly go unconscious, like, they say in the movies, like if you were to be knocked out and go unconscious for like a minute, right? Like they show in the movies where it's like minutes and hours, you'd obviously have brain damage, but 18 seconds. Why is 18 seconds so significant? Why are 3 death saves the chokehold? And I really think it's because it's the death saving throws are a focus on combat efficiency and not anything else. I don't think it has anything to do outside of you need something to do on your turn while you still have a chance. And we're giving you 3 rounds. We're giving your party 3 rounds to figure it out. I kind of think it's an arbitrary number. I kind of think that it is an arbitrary concept of survival. And I think it only is there to give the player something to do so they are still engaged while they're waiting for somebody else to do something. That's my hot take on that. I don't do death saving throws. It's not really my interest. I much prefer where there's a point at which you can go unconscious. And at that point, you're just unconscious. There should be a point at which you are dying, and then there should be a point at which you're dead. And all of those states have different time frames that you can be in before long-term damage happens and before you can't be brought back. And that's how I do it. It's clean, it's easy, it's great for the narrative, and it makes death more meaningful, and it makes attempting to bring someone back more meaningful. Ooh, you have a new system for death. Okay, I'm interested. I haven't really presented my final version for High Point, but yeah, it's basically you just have an unconscious zone. Because I'm tying a lot more to the HP system. I really want HP to be more representative of your overall fatigue level. So I do have a percentage system where you start to go into fatigue, then you have an unconscious zone, the conscious zone, then you have a dying state zone, and then you have a death zone. So depending on how much damage you take, we'll put you in those different zones, and then depending on how long you're in each of those zones, you could slip. So if you're in the dying state, obviously for too long, you'll go into the death state. But that does reset the timer. So, for instance, if you're in the dying state, essentially you can be revived, within a certain time frame, as is. But if you go into the death state, you'd have to actually be like resurrected. But that has its own time frame once you've crossed that threshold. So I like the idea of splitting it up like that. It gives a little bit more time pressure, and it gives a lot more options, and it gives different stages to what players can do. Do you think healing magic should pick up someone over someone? Hold on. Healing magic should pick up someone over someone healing someone with the. Oh, gotcha. Okay, so when it comes to so the bandage one would still be down, just unconscious. Gotcha. Okay. So you're saying, should there be a differentiation of that? So for me, there are occasions where I like to throw in, I guess what you would call more narrative or role play detriments, like a bleeding effect, not just mechanically, but like seriously, for an idea of like, hey, you're going to die if this isn't fixed. And in terms of something like that, I would rather favor a bandage stabilizing somebody. Like if you're in the dying state, and this is what Kage understands, and this is what all my players understand, and this is what I wish I could, like the number one thing I wish I could express to the wider D&D community or just the TTRPG community is that my method of DMing is really around the concept of words matter, right? Like if I had to boil down into just a few words what my DMing style is, words matter. So while you're in the dying state, now most of the time, yeah, if someone comes over and they have like basic healing, they'll let like on a situation where you're in combat, you go down, you've taken enough damage, someone comes over, patches you up, you're up, yes. But if there's a situation in which you're fighting like a slashing weapon and you've taken multiple bouts of slashing damage and you're bleeding profusely and you've lost a lot of blood, and that's been stated, like maybe your character pushed beyond their limits, maybe you knew it was bad and you pushed into the fight instead of healing yourself, so you sustained more damage. In those really difficult situations, just going, here's a band-aid, you're up, isn't going to cut it. Like it was established that this was devastating. Like the amount of damage you took was devastating in a certain way. So if you come up with some bandages, that's great. You've patched them up and you've stopped the bleeding. You've still lost a lot of blood. And that's why for me, I want to tie it more to HP, because bandages don't necessarily equate to getting more HP back. Bandages can help stop decrease, but not necessarily equate to increase. And that's where, for me, it matters. It matters whether or not you have proficiency in being able to heal someone or just medicine, right? And to me, there's a difference, right? Healing and medicine are different. And to me, I do think that there needs to be a differentiation. Medicine can take care of diseases, poisons, bleeding, a broken leg, whatever. Healing brings you back to usefulness. It brings back vitality. Healing itself does more than just stabilize. And I feel like, to me, there is a difference. So yes, when we're talking about, do I think healing magic should pick someone up versus regular bandages just stabilizing them? Yes, but I also think it's situational, because sometimes it's just not worth messing up the flow of things just to say, well, you only had a bandage. To me, it should matter, but it also should matter when it matters. If you're just in a basic fight and it's going pretty quick and it's just some bandits, I'm not going to bother with exactly the type of heal. If you go over, quick pick up your party, let's kind of go. But again, when it comes to certain things, because I treat my players the same way. I've always told my players, what you say matters. If you come to me in a combat and you say, I swing with my main weapon, I roll this, and this is my damage, cool. You swung with your weapon, you hit, you didn't, you did the damage. But if you say things like, I feign to the left, swing hard to the right, trying to go for his hip to immobilize him, and then I want to position myself away from his next swing, does that always fundamentally change everything I do? No, because he still has his attacks and everything. But I do think about the order of operations and what you just did. If you're successful, the outcome will directly be related to what you did. If you just hit him, that's great. But now I also know he's damaged in the hip. So that's going to change how he fights. Again, mechanically, he's still going to probably swing, but he's now damaged there, which also means I might make his movement less, or might make his armor less effective. So again, if you hit the same spot, maybe I'm actually going to drop his AC by 1 on the back end because that AC is damaged. There's a lot of things I like to take into account, and maybe if you crit, I'm going to apply additional benefits, right? So if you were to crit on that particular attack, maybe I knock his movement in half, and his next attack, because you specifically stated that you moved out of his easy reach, maybe I give him disadvantage on his next attack because you specifically positioned yourself. Now, I've told Kage this before, not everything needs to be codified. That does not necessarily need to be a mechanically codified, here's the rule how that works, so you can cookie cutter do it every single time. It's a narrative benefit to you doing something unique in that moment, which is exactly how combat should unfold. You should be doing things unique to those situations and getting benefits unique to those situations. But when you have something that you're like, oh, that worked once, I'm just going to spam that because it worked, that's just not how it really works. That's not how it would actually work against real opponents, because they'd quickly learn how to counter it. So for me, it is one of those things where it should matter, but only when it should matter, if that makes sense. It should matter, but only when it should matter. And again, there are times when I absolutely can ignore it and just go, cool, you're bandaged, you're up, you're back at 1 HP. But there are other times it's where it's like, he bandaged you, you're not bleeding, you're no longer in the dying state, but you are still down. You are not okay, right? Those two situations can absolutely happen. I do not see a problem with it. It is not me as a DM being overpowering or it has nothing to do with me controlling anything. It is truthfully allowing the narrative to also play an equal part in the game over the mechanics, because for me, it is all too often that people divide mechanics and roleplay. And I really feel like there is a synergy with all of them. And when you layer them like that, it makes the game feel more immersive. It makes every choice you do, every choice that you make matter. It helps that the words that you use and the way that you respond to what's actually happening, and because I guess you could say it's a way that I reward people paying attention. Put it that way. If I say certain things and they catch on to it and they use the words that I say against me, that is what I'm hoping that I instill in them is, yes, I said that for a reason. You know what I mean? If I give you something that is there for you to use. If you ask a question, if something is there and it is, that is me being like, I don't know what you're about to do, but I want to see it, so go ahead. Right? If I don't describe, like if you walk into a library and I explain the books and all of this other stuff, and I don't mention that there are tapestries, it doesn't mean that tapestries wouldn't be important. It just means that in that exact moment, it was not when your characters walk in, it's not the first thing I think that they appear. But if you say, are there tapestries on the wall? I go, I don't know why that would be important, but yes, there are. What would you do with them? I'm so much more interested in like, okay, you're going to do something with that. But again, it would only make sense if there would be tapestries there. I'm not just going to create it because, I didn't think about that. It's just, I don't want to give too much detail because then there's a bunch of red herrings. but I don't want to give only the detail that they need to interact with, because then that also makes the world feel a little bit too linear and a little bit too flat. There needs to be a good spread of, here's the world at large, and here are things that genuinely would catch your interest, but not everything that catch your interest is important. That's not how things work. And I don't know, there's a part about me where I know games don't have to be realistic, but there are parts about realism that make stories work better. It's why we connect to characters in books and stories and movies, is when we can relate to them. And if you're playing a character who is never fallible, who never makes a mistake, who never is off topic, you never will relate to them, because that's not how it works. You need a character who can be distracted. You need a character who makes mistakes. You need a character who sees and interacts with the world the way that it is, so that when they discover things, it's more impactful and more important. And when they interact with things, it actually tangibly makes sense and isn't just well, there's a thing here and of course it's there, but it doesn't matter because it has nothing to do with the plot. And to me, there's a disconnect in that kind of gameplay for me. I don't like that. I like everything to actually have something behind it, right? I want every wall to have a room behind it. I want every person to have a personality behind them. Whether or not I pre-plan that, that's the method for every DM. But a world that is only what you see and not anything else, to me, just isn't interesting to play in. But yeah, I have two big things here I gotta catch up to, Hecate. Wholeheartedly agree. Interesting question. What are your thoughts about assassination? Like, if someone cuts someone in their neck asleep, would they auto die, or should it start combat? Because 5e doesn't have anything like that. So this is actually something that I've had a lot of conversations with. I've debated about this. So yes, there are situations that absolutely should be able to work this way. But I also understand that for a lot of DMs, the idea that a low-level player could do this and overtake a high-level player so easily is a concern. And vice versa. A 20th level player doesn't want to know that a, first level NPC slashed their throat, right? But that's where, again, narratively speaking, I look at all the details. If the NPC is 20th level and you are first level, I don't care, unless you nat 20'd every single roll, they are just going to have a better chance at hearing you, right? Like, I'm not necessarily going to say that I'm going to give them any higher of a perception check, but they're probably going to get advantage on it. Like, the idea that you are going to sneak up on them and know all of the tips and tricks is just not going to happen, right? But it also depends upon, like, who they're going after. It's one of those, those situations, it works both ways. I think that there is a narrative explanation to why this is acceptable. The problem is, just like anything, if it's abused, it can be abused both ways. Because if the players want to say, well, as long as I do a stealth check, I can kill anyone of any power level, and it's like, that's great. They can also hire the best assassin that lives in the world to do the same to you in 5 seconds. So the moment you want to abuse this, the moment you have an assassin on your ass that will do it instantly, and the next gaming session you show up to, you'll be handing in your character sheets because you woke up dead. So it's one of those things where, can it be done? Yes, but it's one of those situations where, honestly, ask yourself, what precautions would the NPC that's being targeted take? And what's the situation in terms of what's the likelihood that whoever's trying to do it would get away with it? Can it be done? Yes. It's a similar thing to where if you knock out an NPC, like if you truly knock out an NPC and want to finish them off, it doesn't matter if it's the BBEG. If you knock the BBEG unconscious and walk up to them and say, I want to kill the BBEG, that is it. Like, they're dead. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't care if they have 1,000 hit points. Like you stated, if you cut their neck, it doesn't, because again, hit points has nothing to do with how much blood you have. It is your ability to stay in the fight. If you are unconscious, the only thing you can fight is what your body can react to. So you still have your ability against poison and disease, but you have no ability. You have no fortitude to stay alive. You have no willpower to keep fighting because you're not in a fight. You're unconscious. You're asleep. So in technical terms, you only have 1 hit point, because HP is not only your physical attribute, and maybe more than that, because if you're a big burly dude and people just start beating you up, it's going to take a lot to kill you. but your hit points are not at your maximum if you're asleep, right? So you could say that if you're 20th level, you could even put a scalar on it, like asleep, maybe your damage is like a third of your max HP, meaning one hit could easily kill you. But then you get into these extenuating circumstances of if you get a slit throat, well, that's pretty much an end game kind of situation. So I do think that assassinations are fine. I will even go as far as to say that there are situations that it could even be done when the person is not unconscious. I would even go far as to say, while not easy, with the right amount of preparation and the right roles, I would even go so far as to say you could technically pull this off in combat, but it would be near impossible, but possible nonetheless. Yeah, see, yeah, you going up and sneaking up on a sleeping NPC that just auto starts combat, I don't do that. So I have a story about that. So there was a fight that one of my parties had initiated, and they had snuck into this warehouse. There was a bunch of guards and bandits and stuff, and they all took positions hiding. They all passed their stealth checks, so they had all taken positions ready to take out a guard each. And the first person to take it off actually went after a sleeping person, and they basically described what they wanted to do, so they didn't have to roll for it. They just had to roll their stealth check, but they were powerful enough to where it was like, yep, you pull it off, they're gone, and then everybody else would use that and then jump in on their people. And yeah, about half of them succeeded to the point to where they were able to take out about a third of their targets before initiative was even started, simply because I do, like many stealth games, I believe that if you take someone out silently, there's no reason to initiate and alert anything else. And I know that there are a lot of people out there who like to use initiative to help control action economy. I disagree with that because it's too intertwined with combat to separate the two. It's very difficult to not have people feel like once combat or once initiative is done, everybody's kind of like in combat. But also, I guess it's kind of funny because everyone loves Daggerheart, but I guess you could say I've been kind of doing that for a long time, where until it's fully initiative where everyone is truly engaged in combat, it really is just kind of up to the players to navigate how they all want to interact with each other and how they want to stack their actions. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I think a lot of things are possible. I think it just really comes up to making sure the players know that their words matter, and how they go about doing it is just as important as what they want to do. Awesome question. Thank you. Someone got the memo and is actually participating today. Fantastic. I had 78 profiles today. Awesome, but not 78 followers. Explain that. How are you going to come to my profile, see all of this, and not follow me? Oh, these people. TikTok. All right, Hecate, what else you got? Got anything more, or should I switch to games? You're kind of leading the show right now, which is fine with me. Does High Point have lots of assassinations that happen off screen that affect the players in game? Now you're asking some really interesting questions. The answer is yes and no. So in one respect, yes, shit's happening in High Point all the time. Power struggles are shifting, and there are things that I have going on that, yes, people are dying, and that absolutely can change who the players end up interacting with, locations that they can go to. Like, it's just power struggles. Like anything that they can interact with, those changes do affect them. Now, more directly, this is more player to player specific. But yes, actually, there's a couple players that, based on their actions, based on their interactions, and based on people that are following them, yeah, there are a couple players that have initiated things that have caused either the assassination of someone, or actually, even better, one that I can actually openly talk about. So, Vixie actually witnessed such an assassination of sorts. It wasn't an assassination of death; it was an assassination of imprisonment. Basically, someone got assassinated to the point to where they were replaced with a duplicate who would go about in their stead. But then they were put into prison to suffer for their own crimes, while basically no one knew that they had been captured, kind of thing. So Vixie's character got to witness this. Unbeknownst to her and accidentally, she had no part of it whatsoever. She just happened to be, right place, wrong time, and witnessed this essential mental assassination where they were basically like, here's your mental prison. You will go there for however long we decide, and we will let this husk, basically operate in your stead so no one knows anything. But you will be, punished. And after witnessing that, instead of, doing anything to her, when they found out, they were basically like, huh, so you just saw that. It has nothing to do with you, and we really don't care. So just don't talk about it. And they gave her something that was extremely valuable to basically guarantee that she could accomplish something that she's been trying to accomplish out of game for many years, in game like 2 years. And they basically, quite literally and figuratively, handed her the key to get the thing that she really, really wanted, just so she would keep her mouth shut, and not tell anybody, what happened. So she agreed, and yeah, she's told people, but not many people. But she hasn't like spread the word to the point to where they're going to do anything about it. So technically, she's kept her word. But yeah, that was probably the most direct assassination that directly affected somebody. Is they directly saw essentially a social assassination, and got the benefits of keeping their mouth shut over it. And then others, just NPCs will disappear, or towns will disappear. But yes, there you could say that there are assassinations that affect players. Players can also hire assassins. They can also have assassins come after them. So yeah, assassins are kind of big. It's one of the main, like one of the top thieving guilds is a Master Assassin's Guild. God, I love these questions. These are great. Wish we had more people. Questions. Does your world progressive while they're AFK and on session? Like, do you run a few tables to see what could happen in the world that may affect them? Okay, so this is great. So High Point primarily evolves based on the players, but of course it is always changing. I'm expanding and I'm doing things. Now, it is a lot easier because on the deity side, time doesn't work the same way. So it's a lot easier to get things done on the much higher levels. It's a lot more difficult to get things done more locally around a player who's not gaming. So for instance, when Vixie's not gaming her character, I can't really have the NPCs around her do too much. Now, unless there's like a time jump where, in between sessions, we say that there's been like a week or a month or whatever, then yeah, they would have done things. But because every single player, while they are all in the same universe, some are not necessarily in the same place and some are not necessarily in the same timeline. So this also helps to where each of them are affecting High Point in their own ways, and very strangely and awkwardly affecting each other in ways they don't understand. So again, someone may go somewhere that another group has been and see the knock-on effects, or vice versa. They may do something that someone will see in the future. So yes, the world does progress, but it's only to a point to where once that ripple gets close enough to a, I guess what you would call a localized event, a player, basically, right? That ripple basically gets paused and frozen in time until that ripple can be fulfilled or can be realized. So, if I make a major decision and say, hey, you know what, this one kingdom around this time frame is going to invade this other kingdom, right? And so I'm going to have that war begin, and I'll start planning all of that out and thinking about it. And then that ripple effect of that war, I'll be like, okay, that could affect the whole continent. But if there's a player who's not actively gaming just outside of where the first attack happened, like let's say there's a main kingdom here and there's a player just down here, that attack will happen when they're not gaming. But the moment the ripple effect would have affected that town, I basically have to stop the entire thing and go, okay, cool. Put a pin in that. That's happening at this time frame. But I have to wait for that player to realize how that ripple effect, because that player could get wind of it and go, I'm going to go and join the fight. And then they could turn the tide. They could completely go one way or the other, or they could run away from it, or they could just not even realize it. But once I can realize that, then I can let the rest of the ripples go out. So those ripples only go as far as they're allowed to without player interaction. So yes, there's plenty of things happening while the players aren't gaming, but only to an extent that it would affect them. Once it would affect them directly, I kind of have to wait for them to resolve what they find out. But this is also where the juggling act of, I don't throw everything at my players. I make the world work around their decisions. So as my players expand and adventure and make their own decisions, I decide which aspects of the world would become an influence. Because, if I have a player who has never once looked for a mayor, a governor, the baron, the prince, the king, has never once involved themselves in any political strife, has never once really gotten into anything on that diplomatic level, why would I be feeding them knowledge about what's happening on that diplomatic level? None of that matters to them. So until they talk to the baron of a town, or until they get arrested and have to talk to a high profile individual, I'm going to let those ripple effects just happen in the background, because until they interact with it is when I have to go, okay, what time are they interacting with it? Let's localize that and go freeze frame what was happening and who would have been there. But if they're truly involved in it, then I have to let it evolve with them, because their decisions may steer the direction of how it would have evolved, if any of that makes sense in the way that I'm saying it. So yes, things happen around the players all the time without them knowing about it. But the more the player themselves has shown interest in that aspect of the game, the more that game waits for them to interact with. Because they're more likely to be able to inflict a change that I wasn't going to be able to predict. And you were in a campaign where a group was trapped in a dimension, a pocket dimension, where time was slow, and we came back into the real world. 5 years passed. So much change. 2 friendly kingdoms were at war. Wow. And a third kingdom had been wiped off the planet. I have done very similar things. In fact, Vixie is actually done 2 major time jumps by accident, due to an anomaly that she found. So she is actually 3 years displaced. Funny enough, Kage's character, we've mentioned this on stream before, has been jumping in time quite a bit and has been in different locations and different time frames, unbeknownst to his own character. So yes, I have done this to where things will change. Major events will have knock-on effects. And again, these can it's very weird for her character, just because, it's also weird for me, because I have to also keep in mind like how the NPCs have spent 2 years, without her, and moved along. But also these effects too happen because of what the players do. I had one player who became a sorcerer of sorts and was able to play with disease magic, and was basically testing their magic with diseases. And they had settled on this little like cattle town and started messing with all of the cattle and practicing various like disease strains, trying to like find, you know, just messing and being very chaotic with it. But eventually they were just like, I'm bored, I'm gonna leave. And they did. They fucked around for a while, devastated a bunch of cattle, and then left. But that player never really cared about where they went. They just said, hey, I'm here in this location, I'm splitting off from the party, I want to go find the biggest cattle like area that I can. And it didn't take them very long to find one. But again, neither the character nor the player decided to look into where they were. They just said, suits my purpose, I'm going to start doing my thing. And they left, devastating the cattle. What they didn't know is this section of the valley happened to be the main cattle production for the entire kingdom. Basically decimating the entire kingdom's cattle supply. Those knock-on effects have devastated cities, and that was when Vixie's character was with them before both time jumps. Vixie's now 3 years in the future. Those cities to her are essentially gone. The cities she walked through are gone. They're ghost towns because the cattle dried up, they diseased, they had to find other sources. Because at first it was just going to be a disease-ridden valley, and they were going to be able to see the struggles. Because at first, you know, no one was going to notice, but it was going to take months for the supply to dwindle and eventually them to realize there was going to be some diseases popping up in different cities. There was going to be some quest options for them to, you know, help like local clerics. Like that would have been a great opportunity because of the disease concept. Like my player wanted to do this, and I just looked at the knock-on effects of, man, this is not only going to cause the entire kingdom to go downhill, but the town that they happened in is going to dry up. The trade routes are going to be contaminated. People are going to get sick everywhere. New disease strains are going to pop up. I had all of these plans for things they could run into, and then she time jumps for 3 years. So now I have to go, oh, well, all of those are out. Now I have to think, well, what's going to happen after all of that? After all of that happened, you know, I had to look at, well, now the valley is decimated. The kingdom had to come up with a brand new system. So now they made new trade deals, which has, you know, really changed the dynamic of a lot of diplomatic relationships across the kingdoms, because they had to make different deals with different people, and that, you know, swayed people differently. And those trade routes got infected, and the manipulation of diseases to where there are now new diseases in different parts of the continent because of, you know, 3 years ago, some jackass was messing with diseases. So on cattle because they were chaotic. But that's the kind of stuff that I enjoy doing. What caused the time manipulation? So in the starting town that Vixie was in, it's a very special town. There's a big lore. Kind of one of the main, like one of her major like plot lines is the town that she's from is special, has a lot of deep lore to the previous wars, and nearby is a cave system that is kind of special. She's gotten to explore it once, but once upon a time, like this cave has gone through many centuries of changes, right? It used to be a natural cave system, then it was taken over by dwarves, and it was a dwarven hold for some time, and then different creatures and different species have tried to take it over, but they've all basically failed. And essentially the biggest remnants, as most people remember it, as the dwarven hold, that was one of the most successful because they actually went in and messed with some things. There was some latent magic in there due to both the overlapping of ley lines, the location and proximity to the starting town that she was in. So a lot of reasons why this place was a very big magical hub and why the dwarven hold went there. But one of the aspects of it was it had a high rate, or not a high rate, it had a higher, because of the magical focus on it, it had higher potency for temporal magic. And the dwarves were able to use this higher potency to essentially make this unique cold vault where it's a certain size in the dark and it gets bigger as light hits it. It's kind of this weird, but it was also meant to slow down time in the dark. So it's this weird temporal way that they were able to manipulate time and space in this location, just due to the funness that the anomaly that is the town caused. So they built this, but they pretty much knew that they were messing with experimental stuff and they couldn't control it. So they eventually, for unknown reasons, no one knows yet, what exactly happened to them, but they left, and all of their protective warding, all of their stuff that made their dwarven hold so powerful started to erode just by nature. And of course, time dilation issues with magic eroded it quicker. So all of their little magical barriers and all of their little things started to come apart, break down, bleed out, and that unstable experimental magic started to fluctuate. So basically, the entire cave system, as far as anyone knows, is basically just bleeding temporal experimental magic, essentially. And so when they went in there the first time, normally nothing happens, right? There's still remnants of the temporal freezer storage unit that you can go explore, but for the most part, the rest of the cave is fine. The problem is when you use certain types of magic. So the first time they went to go explore it, everything was fine. And then they realized they were being chased. So, or no, they weren't being chased. Sorry, that was the second time. So the first time they were in there, they were exploring it. They went super deep into the cave system. They were exploring. And after a while, they were just like, this place is huge. We don't know where we are. Maybe we should just get the fuck out of here, because what the fuck? Like, we don't need to be here. So, one of them decided, okay, I'll just teleport us out. No big deal. So, poof, teleportation magic. Small problem. If you remember how I explained what they were messing with experimentally, it was a time-space messiness. So their teleportation moved them in space. Except the time temporal issue also forced them to shift in time. So they were down there in the cave for a couple days. Used magic, came out. A year had passed. So that was her first time jump. Hot tub time machine. So the first time she did that, year had passed. Had to figure all of that out. Crazy circumstance. But no real big deal. The second time is that she got attacked by something that she could not deal with. She was lucky enough to have a couple NPCs that were nearby. I say nearby, they were hired to help her. But even they were almost barely able to help her out. But they were almost going to fail because the dice tell the story. So she had the smart idea to retreat into the cave. Took her two buddies and they ran back into the cave, trying to lose them. So she ran into the cave. They ran as deep as they could. Knowing full well that there was some temporal issues, she was like, we need to get the fuck out of here now. And they didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but one of the NPCs did have a long-range teleportation spell available. They threw caution to the wind, said, fuck it, and attempted to cast the spell. The second time they did this, the teleportation spell was a long-range one. Was only supposed to go like 1.5 miles max. Like absolute max power, 1.5 miles. They ended up we'll just say thousands of miles away. They ended up on a different landmass, bare on the edge of the kingdom, 2 years into the future. And that's where she picked up. And that was her total of 3 years. She had 2 different time jumps in the cave. And that last one was a 2-year time jump, but it also teleported them to like a completely different side of the kingdom. That was fun. Well, and this is the fun part is there. So this is where it gets really fun. None of this is just random, right? Like I tell Kage, Kage knows this is why Kage loves asking me questions, because he knows that there's always an answer. Obviously, I can explain why the cave works that way. I talked about the dwarves. I talked about the experimental magic. Like, you could see all the pieces that make sense. But where they went, why did they go where they went? That's the question that no one's asked yet. Why did they go so much further? Well, time-space magic, right? Makes sense why they went further. It makes sense why they went in time. But here's the fun part. Where they went, they find out is actually not too far from a place they've been before. In fact, she's from this location way thousands of miles away. There's another place that she's established herself, another place that she's visited. She has like a second home there. When she did this time jump, she ended up in a forest basically just outside of where she had set up that home. So it's not too far from a well-known place that she's been established. But no one ever really looked into, like, what was the significance of that, right? It wasn't just random, but it also wasn't just me as a DM saying, oh, I'm just going to put you somewhere you know. And even all of the things that they've figured out and put there, like, she knows what happened in that forest, because it really ties into another major incident that she was a part of at the place that she established that second home. There was a major incident there, and she knows that this woods that she's now in, or that she got transferred to, is a part of it. But now there's that big looping question of, like, so why did I come here to learn about this place's connection with that incident from that cave, right? So there's like all of these like elements to trying to figure out, like, how did fate put me here and why? Do I have a time god? I do. And if you do, what does he think about all of this time traveling? I would think it would have a problem since they are messing with time by accident. So that is a great question. Yes, there is a god of time, and typically temporal fuckery is a problem. But 9 times out of 10, it's intentional fuckery that's the problem. Temporal magic isn't necessarily banned. And temporal anomalies are just an aspect of having temporal magic, right? The god could easily fix this temporal issue, but it's kind of mortal making. He would have to send people there, but, it's not that big of an issue. So yes, changing time is a problem. Kind of the God of Time's deal to make sure it all works. But two major, not issues, but two major fundamental aspects do come into play for this god in particular. One, in these two particular cases that I've been mentioning, they are both the player characters. And that doesn't mean that they get special rules because they're player characters and, that's just how it is. It's because, as I've explained on stream and I've explained to Kage and Vixie, player characters, their characters are unique in the world. Deities do see them as different. They are unique. They're basically the most powerful types of souls that could exist in High Point, right? Like, they are coveted types because they aren't of me. They aren't of Zenith. They are true creations in and of themselves. So part and partial, the God of Time sees them as unique, and that gives them a little bit of leniency out of curiosity. It's also not really intentional. They're not really intentionally trying to fuck with time, right? They can make mistakes, but they're not trying to intentionally cause disruptions in time. And one, I guess, of the main also fundamental aspects of this is that both of these characters are also really tied up in their own versions, or at least their own sections of a greater prophecy, which is also just something that a lot of deities and high-powered entities know about. So whenever that's involved, a lot are more hesitant to get involved as kind of a superstitious fear of self-enacting or swaying a prophecy. Kind of like some believe that they don't want to be involved in the prophecy to make it happen, as if like, oh, well, if I do something, then I'm going to make it happen, versus, well, if it's going to happen anyway, then it's not going to happen with me. So it's like there's a lot of different approaches to it. So when they're tied in to prophecy, and when they're not doing it intentionally, and when the ways that they're doing it are not necessarily exploitative, it's not necessarily something that the God of Time needs to be overly concerned about until it actually starts to disrupt the flow of time. Yeah, the god is definitely aware of them. But again, luckily with the God of Time, the God of Time is one of those few gods who has very little in terms of ambition. Their job is fundamental, and they are one of the few that take their job as it is, as a stance, as a mantle, and as a necessity. They're one of the few that just don't see purpose in trying to take on more than what is necessary. For them, they have a purpose, they fulfill that purpose, and anything beyond that is not for them. And some gods have this. Other gods have bigger ambitions. They want to become more powerful. They want to control more things. The God of Time has enough on their plate. They're happy with what they have. They're not interested in big moves. They're interested in keeping the status quo. And the way that High Point works, time travel is a thing, but it is also guarded. And there are many guardians of it. So while he watches, not every incursion of time is of concern. Have I done a fourth wall break like Deadpool? Not yet. That's all I will say. Not yet. But it is on the table. It is very possible. And it's mainly possible because of a fourth wall break situation that I got put into as a player when I was still developing my main character who became Zenith. So because of that experience, that does exist in High Point, because Zenith very much went through a fourth wall break of their own. So it is possible, and it could happen. And they're also technically, it will be more unlikely, but there are technically NPCs that exist that essentially kind of understand and get the gist, that there is more driving my player characters than other NPCs. Not necessarily to the whole meta understanding, but some of them could fourth wall it to an idea that, I have NPCs that would say things like, I speak to the controller, not to the form. And essentially it's like similar to the NPC trying to talk to the player without really understanding I'm in a game kind of thing. But yeah, there's levels of fourth wall breaks that I think are acceptable, but I wouldn't necessarily say that's a universal concept. That really does work specifically with the way that I've developed High Point and the history that Zenith actually has. I think it's a really unique idea. It's not something that I would suggest most attempt. I just feel like it's not necessarily beneficial if you don't have the right justification and the right storyline for it. I'll say that. It's not really something that truly would add much other than a shock value, unless there's a deeper meaning behind it. But it is a cool concept. But yeah, I like treating my PCs differently, and not for the sense of you're the hero, you're the main character, just the sense that the world itself, the universe itself recognizes you as something unique. You are born of it, within it, or you were born within it, but not of it. Whereas most of the other, NPCs, everyone knows they are born within and of High Point. Player characters, when they are seen by deities, they know that they are in, but they are not of High Point. And there's something special about them, which is why they are the most coveted of followers and clerics, because they will eventually become the soul that is more powerful than any single soul out there in the entirety of High Point. Not necessarily saying that one soul will overpower any other main god, but it will be a very big leveraging point. I'm glad you say that. That's kind of what High Point's been all about. Like, just the entire idea has just been, it's really just that. It is a truly open world. I mean, some people, I guess, would call it a sandbox. I don't like that term because, I don't know, it's more than a sandbox. It's not just a situation or a location that you can just do whatever you want in. It is just a living, universe. It is just something that has multiple layers to it. It's meant to fit whatever the player wants to do. Now, I know that it's like, that's why I've always said I've never looked at High Point as something that I want to create and sell, because it's just, High Point's not so much a mechanical system. Like, it's not its own TTRPG. It is a place. It is an experience in and of itself. It is the story. It's the things that I use, the entities. It's the way that you interact with the world. It's more than just its mechanics. And that's why it's like, yeah, I have a baseline for AD&D 2nd edition as my foundational mechanics, but then I take mechanics from everything else, because for me personally, the story is more important. Telling the story, interacting with my players, and letting them experience whatever they want is the fun for me. But I get to be the player because whatever they do, I have to make the world work around what they do. If they want to talk to somebody, I now have to fill out that person. If they want to kill someone, I have to look at what does that do to the rest of the world? What are the knock-on effects of that person dying? And that's playing to me. That is my game. I love being a player, but I much more enjoy figuring out how to take what the players do and not just respond to them, but also respond to my world and actually be like, okay, that just happened. What are the implications? That to me is my hobby. That's what I like to do in between gaming sessions, is just constantly think, how has the world changed because of what's happened? So then I can bring back to another gaming session all of those changes that they can then interact with, so we can then develop more changes. I don't like the idea of High Point being this like episodic modulistic campaign where you could replay any section. I like the idea that anytime you jump in, the world is only that way because that's when you jumped in, and it will change as you game. I want that experience just because I enjoy it. And that's my fun. My fun is not creating a single story. It is creating this ever evolving experience that I have all of these stories that I can talk about. My players have all these stories, but then anybody new can immediately start adding to the story, right? It's not like, oh, I'm playing in the coattails of all of your other players. It's like, no, you are now part of the story immediately. Just by creating a character, the world has fundamentally changed. You have now come from a town. You now have parents. You now have that backstory, and you now have nemesis and allies. All of that fundamentally changes how everyone else will develop and play the game. And to me, that is the most enjoyment that I get. And that's why I choose to be a DM. And that's why I will always choose to be a DM over a player. Not because I want the control, but because the fascination of building the story and the world that players interact with is my jam. It's just what I want to do. Thank you for asking questions, Hecate. I very much appreciate it. Please, if you have more, let us know. We might be done for tonight. It's been a pretty good almost 2 hours. But yeah, think of more. If you have questions, write them down. You can either submit them in the Discord in the AMA section, or just save them for another Friday. But I loved this. Actually, I'm kind of glad we did this more than game. So thank you again. But I think we will cut it there. It's been great. I hope you all had a great week. I hope you have a fantastic weekend ahead of you. Kage should be back on Monday for regularly scheduled D&D content. We have some backgrounds from Desmar that we'll be going through, but other than that, yeah, I hope you guys have a good rest of your night. Thanks, Hecate, for all the questions, and maybe I'll see you on this weekend, or I'll see you on Monday. But yeah, sleep well. Cheers.